Hey, what's going on YouTube? Nick here to talk about Peacemaker Episode 7, the penultimate episode in this season. There will be spoilers, and if you're new here, the one thing I like to try covering is the storytelling that takes place within these shows and movies that I'd like to cover, and just as well as the character development because that is very important, and just tidbits along the way, see if things make sense. So, with that being said, I think this episode was pretty damn good, all in all. It answered more of the questions that we had in mind. It added a couple of other questions we had in mind, particularly with Augie, Chris Smith's dad, Peacemaker's dad, and just talked a little bit more about the characters. I think in terms of these 7 episodes so far, last episode, episode 6, was by far the best one overall, but this was it was a good follow-up, I will say. So it's not like it deviated too far in the opposite direction. It was still pretty damn good. I think as far as the conflict within Chris Smith himself, learning exactly what drove his brother to dying wasn't necessarily the fight, the backyard sibling fight that his terrible father was putting on with his racist buddies. It was unfortunate, I think it was pretty damn stupid for the sake of the show, not like the fact that that James Gunn wrote it that way, but just it shows how abusive parents can really, torment their children, and look, that stuff happens in reality, and it's super unfortunate. And I think for the sake of, having something that's super scarring like that as a child and having to deal with it, all these years, repressing it, not finding actual help, and for someone, like Chris Smith, who's had to grow up with his father and his father being this, terrible figure, he's just always had to go through this torment, even though he's tried to look to his father as in terms of like still loving him, but his father just hates his guts and obviously tries to kill him and comes pretty damn close. But I was wondering if Chris or Peacemaker was going to pull the trigger in that little forest woods street fight that they had, and sure enough, he did. It was pretty good effect of the blood dripping out of the back of Augie's head as he was just laying on the ground, as Peacemaker was stretching out his face muscles while crying. And I gotta say, some of the lines that Vigilante had with Economos and even Peacemaker were pretty damn hilarious in this episode as well. Man, Vigilante just has some outlandish lines like, like the three is like, what do you say? The three of them banging chicks while dolphins are watching, and Economos is like, I don't want dolphins watching me like have sex. Like, what? I don't know, crazy shit. And I think the dialogue is usually good. I think that's one thing James Gunn is good at, is writing insane dialogue, but also pretty good dialogue that makes sense or is really derivative of characters and their personas. And that even goes back to Guardians of the Galaxy, between the language that Drax has with Dave Bautista, Rocket's, Quill's lines, Gamora's lines, Mantis's lines, like everyone that has really been in those 2 movies, good dialogue. Yondu, I mean, James Gunn definitely knows how to write dialogue. Enough on that, but back to Peacemaker. So I think it's good that White Dragon's gone, not just because he's a racist son of a bitch, but also for the fact that I couldn't really see that storyline really being dragged out as much, and I kind of figured he was going to, get killed in this episode, just because of how quickly they found him, and you know, the alien invasion with the butterflies is really the bigger plot here. So for the sake of what is, it needs to be tied up and answered, I gotta say that's good, because sometimes we see in shows that it doesn't get answered, or it just happens like poorly, gets dragged out, or just the wrong timing. So I think that was, good to happen in the penultimate episode. So it saves the season finale to really focus on the cow, and the butterflies overall. So and I think it was unfortunate again that the sibling fight, right? Like who the young Chris Smith didn't know that just by punching him, his brother would have gone into a seizure when he hit his head, on the mound, and it almost sounded like there was a rock, but we really didn't see it. And again, no one there knew anything about, calling an ambulance or bringing him to to a hospital. So, also unfortunate with circumstances. So, but speaking about other people who have died in this show, in this penultimate episode, Mern, R.I.P. Mern, and he went out guns blazing. We get the Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid reference, and Western style, and of course Mern definitely goes out Western style, taking out some law enforcement with him. Ultimately gets gunned down by Sophie, who is under Goff's butterfly encapsulation, in the show that was Detective Sophie Song. And I kind of thought, I didn't think Mern would die in the penultimate episode. At least I was hoping he would kind of make it through and having a little bit more of a sort of, not necessarily a character development aspect, but just a little bit more of a truth and reveal, more with butterflies, and everything like that within the story. But with Mern out of the way, it definitely leaves the door open to Harcourt, who is basically a king, or crowned as a queen to lead the group. And speaking of Harcourt, there's the tension between Adebayo and Harcourt, right, which we see from episode 1 in the show. So there's a lot of tension. Adebayo thinks that she doesn't like her, which again, that all the dirty laundry is aired out, and they end up kind of coming to a crossroads and having to just say what it is to each other. And there's a sort of a breaching of trust, because obviously Adebayo did betray the trust of the team and of Chris Smith. And it's interesting too how Harcourt was judging Peacemaker, and but realized he's not such a bad guy, and to the point where she's defending him. So again, I think the development between the characters in this show is actually really strong, and is well done, especially within in season that only has 8 episodes. So whether or not you like the characters in the show, whether or not you like James Gunn, and when you're looking at it from a writing standpoint, which is the purpose of why I do these reviews on this channel here, I like that. It's part of my background and what I went to college for. So whenever I watch anything, I always look for those things, and that's really based upon how I say if it's worth watching or not. And again, I've really enjoyed this season, and I kind of felt like I would. And I think for the sake of where the show is leading into the finale of next week, I was wondering if we're going to see the cow. And sure enough, we damn did at the end. That sucker is big, and it is definitely milking that butterfly juice. So, very curious to see what's going to happen. Because there's only a handful of them that are going to be leading into this charge. I kind of feel like there's going to be something else. And again, if this is getting a second season, then I think for the sake of what will happen is maybe the cow doesn't die, or maybe it does. Or maybe they just end it all in the finale and all the butterflies are exterminated, and that's it, and no more Peacemaker. Or maybe there's a second season that's coming. Who knows? I think James Gunn is full of surprises, and I don't know if really had any intention of dragging this out per se, or maybe it's a really short limited series, and it's only maybe 2 seasons. But I think in terms of overall at this point in time, I think all the shocking moments are done. Peacemaker has moved on now that his father is dead, although I'm sure he'll probably still be sad about it, but now he can move on past that. Vigilante and Peacemaker's relationship will still be weird, but Economos is feeling more like one of the guys. There's never a bad time for rock and roll. I agree 100%. And I think, again, with Harcourt leading the group, maybe that's just sort of how the group kind of carries out, unless Adebayo wants to leave after all. But Adebayo and Harcourt, their relationship is sort of, being patched up and moving forward. And as Harcourt calls Adebayo ads, so nicknames. And I don't know what's going to happen with Ad's wife. Maybe she'll deal with it or not. Who knows? Again, with Myrn out of the way, Economos is there. Eagly back alive, giving hugs. And the butterflies. We'll see what happens with that. That's the main attraction for the finale. So it looks like, as it states in the trailer, there is one fucking episode left. If you want to share your comments as to what you think is going to happen in the finale, go ahead and drop them down. I will read them, and I will reply to every single damn one of them. I enjoy doing it. And if you're new here and you want to just support the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for free. I try to cover as much as possible and shows that I try to have time to watch. I appreciate it all, and I will see everyone on the next video that I tend to cover. So, peace out.